Rewind time back to 2008, and you'll find a game that made my PlayStation 3 purchase worthwhile. I'd spent many sleepless nights in Gallia, protecting my homeland from an Imperial invasion. Return time to 2014, and I'm prepared to do it all over again with the PC release of Valkyria Chronicles. Developed by Sega using their unique Canvas engine, PC gamers are in for a visual treat. But how does the port hold up? If you'd like to skip the PC specifics and get into what the game has to offer, I've added an annotation to the bottom of the screen.
Yes!
Sega did a fairly decent job porting Valkyria Chronicles to the PC. After a 16 gig download, the game will take up about 20 gigs on your hard drive. Launching the game, you'll be given the option to configure your settings before playing. Unfortunately, the only graphical options are resolution, and whether or not you want VSync or windowed mode. As you raise the resolution, however, it does increase the rendering of things such as shadows and effects, so there is a noticeable visual improvement. There is no anti-aliasing though. You'll be forced to either downsample from a higher resolution, as I have, or try to force AA through your graphics card. When I'm not recording, I can run the game at a solid 60 FPS at a 4K resolution downsampled to 1080p. I have an AMD 7870 and an i5 3570K for reference. You also have the ability to rebind all of your hotkeys for a keyboard and mouse setup. I recommend raising the sensitivity if you go this route, as it's very slow on default. The only downside is in the game's menus there is no mouse control. You have to control them with the keyboard. In combat, however, you are free to use the mouse as you please. This works great, it's just a shame that the menus do not support the mouse. You can of course use a controller if you prefer. It works just like it did on the PlayStation 3. The unfortunate news is that the game's cutscenes are locked at a 720p resolution at 30 frames per second. The lovely art style helps to cover up some of these imperfections, but it will be noticeable to anyone running at a higher resolution and frame rate. Overall, the port is better than most. Whether that's enough or not, you'll have to decide for yourself. If you'd like a more detailed analysis of the port, Durante did an excellent write-up over at PC Gamer, which I'll link in the description below.
I hear that. It really is one of the most beautiful things about this town.
Valkyria Chronicles puts you in the role of Welkin Gunther, in a fictional World War II setting. Your homeland of Gallia has been invaded by the East European Imperial Alliance, as its soil is rich with a precious mineral called ragnite, used to power the technology of the world.
Sounds like a tank.
After Welkin's hometown on Gallia's border becomes occupied by the Empire, he enlists with the Gallian militia as the leader of Squad 7. You'll follow the story of Squad 7 as they attempt to protect their homeland against the invading force. Valkyria Chronicles does a wonderful job of weaving in both serious and lighthearted moments. One moment you'll be dealing with racism and labor camps, the next you'll be playing with a flying pig. You'd think such transitions would be jarring, but it's really not. It gives the game life and builds the characters of your squad. You'll get to see the many sides of your squad members as they create bonds, then you have to send them out into battle, where death is a real possibility. You also have the fantastical Valkyrian race, with their mysteries to discover. While everyone will have the same overall plot, you will have your own stories to tell about the members you brought along, how they lived their lives, and how they died protecting their homeland. Valkyria Chronicles is a tactical role-playing game which uses a blend of turn-based combat with some action elements. Every turn, you have a limited number of command points, or CP, to spend, which appears at the top of the screen before choosing which character to move. Once you select a squad member, the game will shift to a behind-the-back perspective, allowing you to move the character based on how many action points they have, located at the bottom of the screen. Once that runs out, they can no longer move. You'll want to be sure that they are in cover before this happens, as they'll be immune to critical hits and have increased defenses. Once you find a good location, you can choose to attack once per turn. Every class has their own set of weapons and upgrades. You have the option to use your guns, grenades, mortars, flamethrowers, and various other equipment as you progress the game. Once you decide on your target, you'll enter manual aiming mode. If the target isn't in cover, you can go for headshots for increased damage. Be careful though, as the enemy will get a chance to return fire if they're not killed. Also keep in mind that as you move around, the enemy will attempt to shoot you. You're not safe until you enter aiming mode, or exit their line of sight. The same goes for the enemy when they try to move around. Setting up a good defense and letting your enemy run into your crossfire can be a good strategy. If an allied unit does go down in battle, you have a few turns to assist them before they're gone for good. Simply move another allied unit to their position to call for medical evacuation, saving their life. Welkin also will eventually learn an order, which are special commands usable in battle, to rescue fallen allies. If you're too late and your ally does die in battle, it's more of an emotional loss than one that affects gameplay too much. Every class levels up together, meaning if you lose a scout, you can replace one that will be the same level. Some of the AI can be a bit questionable at times. It'll often feel like the enemy runs more on a script than reacting to what you're doing. Sometimes, they'll move the same unit back and forth for no reason, wasting their turns. Other times, they'll just run along your gunfire, blindly going towards an objective. This can of course be used to your advantage. That's not to say the game is easy by any means. You'll just come across some odd AI patterns more often than you'd like. The combat is a ton of fun, and even after you finish a mission, you can try a skirmish version of the map with multiple difficulties. You can use these to gain more experience and money for your soldiers. Just keep in mind that any deaths here are also real, so you'll need to be careful. The PC version also contains all of the DLC, so you have access to what they call Hard EX mode, removing Welkin's tank for added difficulty. There are also 2 side story campaigns, however, I've never got the chance to play them. Between missions, you're greeted with a book that serves as your menu. Here, you can progress the story, view previous scenes, read about your squad mates, start a skirmish, and go to your headquarters among other things. Once you're in the headquarters, you'll be presented with a few more locations to visit. The barracks is fairly straightforward. You can review your squad members here and equip them with new equipment that you've researched or found in battle. At the command room, you can modify the members that are a part of Squad 7. New recruits will appear over time, giving you even more options. Each character has their own bonuses and setbacks. One member may do well when they're in a grassy environment. Another may have a bad back, so crouching behind cover can become an issue. These potentials, as they're called, are usually fairly minor, but setting up a squad built for any situation adds a nice extra layer of strategy to the game. You may even find a special cameo or two.
The name's Vice Engelbard. Let's go kick this war in the teeth.
The training field is where you go to level up each of your classes. You spend experience to level up each class as a whole. Level Shock Trooper to level 3, all of your Shock Troopers will be that level now. Every class has their own advantages and abilities. Scouts can move the furthest but have the weakest damage. Lancers can do damage to tanks, but not other infantry. Engineers can replenish ammo and repair your tank, for instance. As they level, they'll gain access to new potentials and weapon types. While I'd recommend keeping a balanced party, you're free to distribute the experience points however you please. At the R&D facility is where you'll develop Squad 7's equipment. Between the classes, some gear types are shared, though others are not. You'll need to be sure that everyone's weapons are updated, as well as their armor if you want to succeed. You also have the option of upgrading your tank, though some of the upgrades require a certain amount of space, so you can't have them all. Eventually, more areas will open up for you to explore. These are just the basics you need to be familiar with.
I'll do it. Even going to war.
Valkyria Chronicles is probably one of my favorite games ever made. I'm extremely happy that Sega has given it new life on the PC. I just hope that it can now receive the success that it deserved 6 years ago. If you're looking for an excellent tactical RPG, you can't go wrong with Valkyria Chronicles on the PC. At a modest price point with all of the DLC included, there's never been a better time to check it out.
I want to be able to remember, once the war is over, that it wasn't all just people killing people. That even in war, there was also new life.